their kids know that behind the scenes that they're not really like that. Like, they know how parents truly are, you know?
So you mean like that parents will sometimes pretend to be more religious than they are so they can give off this appearance?
Yeah.
And sometimes kids will do it also?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was just praying. I'm very pious, as you all know. Why do you laugh at that? This is the idea, though. People will pretend to be something in order to impress everyone around. They're like, oh my goodness, that teacher is so pious. So close to God. In actuality, my eyes are just closed and I'm thinking about how hungry I really am. Or more likely, my eyes are closed and I have my head down. Maybe I'll even take a knee so everyone notices this. Because if I don't tell you how pious I am, you're not going to know, right? So I got to make sure you know. It's kind of like when someone is very smart, like my uncle, for example. My uncle is an incredibly smart man. I know this because he's told me. If he didn't tell me, I wouldn't have noticed. So I'm glad that he told me. Some people, you would never know how religious they are, or how much they love God, unless they told you. So it's a good thing that they're telling you, right? I mean, you wouldn't know from looking at their actions. You wouldn't know it from listening to their speech, the things that they say. All you would know it from is from them telling you. Yeah. Others. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. About when you said, like, all you know is from them telling you, like, that means, like, way more than it sounds, you know, because, like, all you know your whole life is what your parents teach you, or, like, what you learn from their like, reaction to things, you know, like, how they handle, like, emotions and stuff. You learn through like, looking at that, and, like, they, like my whole life, I guess, people tell me, well, not people, like, my family wanted me to go to church and stuff, you know, like, you know, and, like, then I realized, like the deep secrets that, like, my family was keeping, you know, that, like, they just, like, they're bad, you know, and so, then it like, was like, why are we going then, like, if you guys are, like, not even, like, actually, like, standing, like, with your words, you know, I guess, and so, yeah, like, we don't go to church anymore.
As soon as you asked them, they're like,
Yeah.
sleep in Sundays. One question destroys faith. I mean, it is hard for us to conceive in the West. Because in the West, how important is religion to us? And I'm not saying like to you specifically, but largely in the West, what do? We joke about religion. Like, we'll say things like, oh, I go out on Friday and Saturday and I do stuff that I have to go ask for forgiveness for on Sunday, and then we all kind of laugh at that. Well, then, well, you know, maybe it's time to make a decision about which of those two things you're going to attend. Are you going to attend the stuff that makes you feel like you have to repent for something, or are you going to embrace that side of yourself and stop going somewhere to repent for the things that you do? You know, those two things don't seem like they can go together. That doesn't mean that you don't sometimes do things that would violate your religion, but it does mean that should not be the habit of your life. It's a weird thing to go to church every Sunday and make that a habit, while at the same time making this contradictory position a habit. You know, kind of like we're talking about with regards to Jung and the archetypes. Whatever archetype you are, if you're the caregiver, stop trying to be the hero. Because that's the thing that causes this mental distress in your life. You're trying to be something other than what you are. And the truth is that none of us will ever be anything other than what we are. You know, we only become more like ourselves over time. But if we try to get back to that later in life, we've come a long way. You know, like in other words, if you're early in life, if you immediately start to stray off of the path of what you are, by the time you realize it, or by the time you are willing to accept it, by the time you bring it out of your unconscious into your conscious, you may have a long way to come back over here. What I was teaching it yesterday was saying, it doesn't really matter what you believe. I don't care if you believe in masks or not, as long as you do it. I don't care if you believe in, fill in the blank. As I was about to say, we're being asked to believe in all kinds of magical things these days, all kinds of fantastical things. We're being asked to redefine things, and we're being asked to reframe things and to understand them in ways that historically have never been true. Do anyone believe that? No. As long as you act like you do, then and you keep your head down, then you're going to be fine. But as soon as you're that lone voice that sets up and says, I don't agree with that, then we're going to put the hammer down on you to strike you down. I don't care if you believe it. Just act like you do. I mean, it'd be better if you did, but who cares? I mean, one example I can think of is if you go down the hallway here to the faculty bathrooms, they used to have male and female faculty bathrooms. And they're just single stalls. So, the state passed a law that says all single stall bathrooms now have to be unisex. They have to be all gender. The day that the law went into effect, the sign that's up there was replaced with a sign that says, we in this school district support rights and blah, 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 and all this stuff. Very, patting him, like I was saying earlier, these are good people who run the place. You know this because they told you with their sign that they are good people. So I guess the question is, if you are such a good person, and if that really is your view, why did it take the law to come along and tell you to put that sign up? Why did you have to be forced by the law to do something? As Aristotle said, I gain this by philosophy. I do without law what other people only do by being commanded from the law. I do without being commanded what other people only do under threat of the law. If you remember the discussion earlier that we were having, if you ask an atheist, well, why don't, if there's no such thing as God, why don't you just rape and murder as much as you want? And a thoughtful atheist will say, I already do rape and murder as much as I want, which is to say, not at all. You don't have to have a God that directs your moral compass. It's like, this is the thing about anarchism. Well, if there's no government, couldn't you just rape and murder as much as you want? Yes. An anarchist would say, yes, and I do rape and murder as much as I want, which is to say, not at all. Why do you have, if that really is your view about those bathrooms, why do you have to have the state come along and tell you, you must do this before you finally do it? And then when the state finally comes along and forces you to do it, to then put up a sign and say, oh, well, we've always believed this. We are good people here. Again, it's a good thing they told us that they're good people. We would have known otherwise. That's what I taught yesterday. It didn't mean that, though. It's something else. It's more like along the lines of what we're saying today. It's characteristic of tolerance that we don't really care what people believe in. As long as they believe or pretend to believe, as long as we can get along with it. As an anarchist, she doesn't believe that there should be a state that comes along and prefers one religion or the other. There shouldn't be a state that intervenes in any of our our human interactions. It kind of looks like this. These are just two people, and they're living in a state of nature, and they're happy. By having a government says, oh, excuse me, let me get between you guys. There's a law that you can't steal from this person. Did you need the government there in the first place to tell you that it was wrong to steal? The idea is no. An anarchist would say no. In fact, the government actually makes things messier, makes things more complicated. So, for example, if you have those AirPods on your desk, if I go over and take them and say, ha, anarchy, no government, I can just take them. What would happen if I just took your AirPods? Nobody? You'd all just go. The men want some AirPods.
You want them back?
Yeah, can I have them back? No. I put them in. It's not really how I dance, but... Any of you guys dance? Oh, too bad. If you're not dancing, you should be. Everybody should dance. Even if you've got no place to do it except for your own bedroom. People are afraid of looking silly. Oh, what if I go dancing? I look dumb. If anybody has time to laugh at you when you're dancing, the joke's on them. They need a prettier date, right? They need a better looking date. Because if they got time to look at you and go, that person looks stupid when they dance, that's because they don't have a date.
Because they're bored.
Yeah, it's because they're bored. Because their dancing sucks and they don't have a good time except for making fun. So who cares about those people? You should dance, even if you have nowhere to do except for your own bedroom. But what I just demonstrated for you is how a polar bear would dance. if polar bears dance. Long story. Anyway, that's the polar bear. That's the polar bear dance. So anyway, if any of you guys sat there and said, "Oh, if you took her AirPods, yeah, oh, I'd punch you in the face and take them back and give them back to her." If any of you said, "Well, I would call the police," an anarchist would say, "Then you've been trained to do that." Because in a state of nature, the right thing is for us to sit around and we all agree, well, theft is wrong. You can't just steal from people. So if I stole, you wouldn't need someone to say, well, then we should call the police. Because then the police show up, you've trained someone to always look for the adult in the room, to not take responsibility for your own life. And so when you've trained people to think this way, you can start to realize how much of your thinking happens this way. I had a student in one of my classes about a year or two ago who I made fun of in some way, and the person was offended by that. And so what did that student do? Take a guess. What's that? He came and talked to me and said, "Hey, Scallon, earlier you said this," and I realized, oh, that's right, because I was wearing a mask, you couldn't see. I'm joking. You know, I was laughing when I said it, and the person just didn't realize it was a joke. I wasn't really mad at this person. It was a joke. But that person didn't feel the need, well, I need to go find an adult to report the adult. The person came and talked to me. And so what suppose my reaction was? I told him to piss off. Coward. No, I apologized. Because my intention wasn't to offend the person. It was just a joke. It was a miscommunication. And then it was, oh, okay. I said, I'm sorry it came off that way. I apologize. Oh, then, as far as I understood, everything was fine. You know, I don't know if my brake lines have been cut since then, or there's a bomb in my car since then, but everything seems to be okay so far. So that you understand that's two very different ways of approaching the state. The state is necessary to tell you not to steal from this person. The state is necessary to intervene to tell you not to talk to this person that way. An anarchist would say that if you think that, you've been trained by the state to believe that the state is necessary. An anarchist would say the state isn't necessary if we just agree on certain very basic principles. And they don't have to be complex principles, very basic principles. Like, we all agree we shouldn't murder each other, right? Yeah, because we murder each other, then there's no more society. We shouldn't steal from each other because that makes the society less livable. Okay, we can all agree on that. And once we're kind of in this state where we collectively agree to live this way, we don't need an intermediary to do that. In fact, an anarchist would say that having this intermediary is exactly the thing that makes things so complicated. Right? You ever watch like a legal case or something like that, and we all know the person's guilty? That's kind of that's a bad example, but why? Why do people get away with that stuff? Because the law, the way that it is, if you can hire a really expensive attorney, they can manipulate the law. And then people sit there and go like, I guess according to the law, remember I told you happened last, an hour ago? Remember? Someone fell asleep in class. The person was snoring so loud, I was editing a video and it woke me, I'm sorry. Bored myself to death. I could hear the person snoring even though I had an AirPod in. Now, and we're looking at it, and we were all laughing because it was like... But here's the thing. What's the rule in class?
No sleeping. Don't put your head down. Don't
put your head down. That's what the syllabus says. The syllabus says, do not put your head down in class. He didn't. He's sitting upright. And I'm like... the syllabus says, putting your head down. It doesn't say anything about falling asleep. I guess I need to fix the syllabus. It never occurred to me that someone would just fall asleep sitting upright. That's why, by the way, that's why a lot of rules exist. Because someone did it. You ever go to the supermarket and they have those signs in the baskets, no dancing in the basket? Looks like someone's dancing in the basket. But they're saying not to let children, stand in that. And you sit there and go like, who on earth would have ever done that? Like let their kids stand in there and move. And I remember I was at Vaughn's about probably 5, 6 years ago now. And I saw a kid standing in that, and the mom was just kind of like looking at magazines. And the kid was here, and the mom had looked over and saw him and went back to the magazine. And I'm like, oh, that's why those signs exist. You know, this is an example of the state convincing you that the state is necessary. It's like me as a teacher. Why? You guys need me as a teacher. You understand this? Yes? Come on, someone. Thank you. At least one person nods. Because it isn't like, how else would you guys get education? It's not like there's some kind of like a video service where you guys could go listen to world-renowned experts from all over the world over the past few decades and get better information. Well, not better information. Let's be honest. The same information that I'm giving you. Is there anything like that in the world? What is it?
The other class.
Other class?
YouTube.
YouTube. Oh, man. Guys, YouTube is unreliable.
How so?
It just is. Are you anti-science? But you see the idea now. I have to throw all these stupid things out there just to try to distract you from the fact that it's your call, man. You guys can listen to me talk about Gilgamesh, as I was a few classes ago, or you can go listen to someone who's been a professor at Harvard for 50 years, longer than I've been alive, talk about Gilgamesh, who actually speaks the languages and can go into detail. It's your call, man. We vote for me, right?
Yeah.
Because I need the job. So you understand the idea that hopefully that a lot of times we exist in a state that we're trying to convince you that we're necessary. Well, you have to have the DMV. Because if you didn't have the DMV, who would collect all those taxes? You know, the vehicle registration fees. Well, what if we didn't have the state in the first place? We wouldn't have vehicle registration fees at all. So the bureaucracy has to grow to meet the ever-expanding needs of the bureaucracy. As a school here, we have to keep adding things so that we can justify our own existences. This is that if you get rid of all that stuff, then you would just have these direct one-to-one interactions and you wouldn't need the state at all. In fact, the state is the thing that makes it more complicated. Yes?
No, I remember you were saying that how if things were to end up like that, though, do you think that they would collapse?
No.
You don't think so?
No, of course not.
How so?
Because we existed for thousands of years like that. I mean, the states is a relatively new thing. Now think about what is it that, let's say that you and I have a personal problem. What happens?
You try to resolve it?
Okay, I'm not going to resolve that with you. You're below me. How do we resolve it?
Ignore each other.
No. He's standing in my plot
Fight
of land. I
Kill him.
guess we gotta fight.
You're gonna fight it?
I guess we gotta fight. Now, if y'all are standing around and you guys say, well, murder is bad, are you gonna let that fight get that bad? Probably not. Now, that's because there's no state. Now, let's say that King Ohani and King Scanlan have a personal problem. Now what happens?
War.
Our nations go to war, and thousands of you guys die. So before there were states, people would resolve their, worst case scenario, you kill one person. But if we have those same levels of disagreements, but there's now nation states, now we can cause all kinds of destruction. In other words, it's the mere fact that the government exists that so many people can be murdered. So many deaths can occur. So, yeah, we existed in it wasn't complete harmony and peace, of course, but at least we didn't have the mass scale of problems that we have now. So think about all the problems that we have right now. What problem does the government solve?
Money.
Money? We don't need money. We can exchange
Protection.
goods. We can trade. What's that?
Protection.
Protection. I only need protection if you've trained me that I need protection. In other words, if somebody comes in and tries to take his eraser and I punch the guy in the face and then hand him back his eraser, and someone says, oh no, we have to call the police, you can't do that. That's terrible. I don't need protection. People might need protection from me, but not if I'm doing the right thing, not if I'm living properly. And the only protection that'd be necessary is a bunch of us living together who all seem to agree on these principles. Yeah. Think about it. Like, what's one problem that the state solves? We might say, well, we need to have food on the shelves. First off, do we have that right now? More than other countries. But it isn't. Joe Biden isn't driving the trucks, is he? No, but the stuff gets there to shelves at Target, because Target's motivated privately to get that stuff to us. What is it that the government does well? What is it that they do properly? All they do well is take money from you, and then set up laws that tell you how you can and can't behave. You know, there's no value there at all. What's that? Oh. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques?